All right, welcome back to another episode of the Wealth Building for Dummies podcast. My name is Kyle Demian. I'm joined here as always with Renji Matthew, and then we do also have a special guest. We have Matt Lee here, business owner, entrepreneur, and founder of Allergic to Average. He's going to be coming on to our show today and talking about how to be allergic to being average, how to not settle for an average life. We're going to talk about mindset, what it takes to be a high-level entrepreneur. And Matt, I'm super excited to have you here on the podcast, man. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure and honored and just excited to be here with you guys.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, fill us in. Give us a little bit of background on yourself. You own multiple businesses. You've been a part of multiple businesses. And then, let's talk about what you're wearing right there on your hat, A to A, and what that means. But let's start with, who is Matt Lee?
Okay, well, Matt Lee, man, I am a husband, just celebrated 12 years with my bride, who I met when I was 14. It just gets crazy, man. I got two little girls, so I'm a father. I'm a girl dad. I got two little girls. But man, before I ever realized what fully happened, man, I became an entrepreneur. Became a speaker. Some people will call me coach. I've never gave myself that title, but you can see me as a coach, mentor, speaker, entrepreneur, and man, just a passionate lover of Jesus Christ, man. That's who I am.
I love it. Now tell us about, so your main brand, your main company is Allergic to Average, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Now tell us about that. And let's actually start with, what does Allergic to Average mean to you? And if you want to branch it into, what is the Allergic to Average movement that you have?
Yes. Okay. So, man, in short, Allergic to Average it's a way of thinking. It's a mentality more than it is a lifestyle. In fact, it's actually a mentality that impacts a lifestyle. And so with Allergic to Average from the beginning, that was always the goal. I actually am not even a guy that ever pursued or had any interest in fashion, like what looks good, what goes with the fashion wears, what's trendy, like just never had the interest. Allergic to Average was actually a season that I went through, and I became a product of being allergic to the average. And so, just kind of a quick backstory, as well as kind of serving the question of like, what is allergic to average? So quick background, it's kind of how I got here, how Allergic to Average ever even got formed was I was 20 years old. I had already been married for a year. And I dropped out of college. I left college, dropped a degree plan, and actually left to start my first business when I was 20 with a buddy of mine. And we opened up a CrossFit gym. It was this whole crazy thing. And I did that for about 2.5 years. I bought my first house in a really nice neighborhood. At this point, fast forward, been married for 2 years. We're the fittest gym in Amarillo. People are, clientele's looking good. Everything was going well. But in that, I started to lose a sense of who I actually was. I started to let my ego and my pride kind of get swelled up. I started getting money in at a young age. I had a business. I had the fittest title of this and this. So fast forward, after playing that role and being that kind of guy, um, everything kind of just hit the fan one day. I had made, and this is just the transparency of who I am and where I've gotten, or where I've been, and now where I've gotten through that. But at that time, I was looking at going through a divorce with my wife. I was looking at losing my home. I was looking at friends that I've had my whole life kind of not even notice me and want nothing to do with me. I watched myself take over with more of the focus of money, women, all these, things that we think we want. And so, that was kind of like one of the breaking points that I didn't realize that I was going to go through. And so, I'm sitting in, the guest room. My wife's pissed at me. A lot of people are upset. A lot of things I just made a mess, man. I just made a big mess. And so, I went through the next, okay, so I'm going to fast forward the story a lot because I was super close to going through a divorce, my reputation, all these things. It was horrible. But I had to take accountability and realize what was it that I did different that I normally wouldn't have, or what at least got me to this point. And so, I probably spent the next 6 months in that guest bedroom giving everything to God. But at the same time, during that journey and that season of just trying to rebuild and relearn some things and let go of these old ways that have gotten me here, um, Romans 12:2, which is kind of a secret. I don't say secret in a way of like we're trying to keep it private away from people, but Allergic to Average is more of a covert kingdom brand. Romans 12:2, which is do not be shaped or conditioned by the patterns or the thoughts of this world. Instead, be transformed by a new way of thinking. Then you'll know what's good and pleasing. And so in that season, the Lord started showing me the power of thought, the power of belief, the power of your ability to shift negative thoughts, negative energy, all these things. And I started just obsessing over what we are able to do with the power of our thought and the power of our mentality and what that actually serves us in. And so fast forward, now I'm at about a year. I left that business, that original business. I sold the shares to my partner. I had to focus on my marriage. I had to get Matt Lee back to a place that wasn't what I didn't realize, but wasn't a place of Matt Lee just being average. Now I had a business. Yes, I had a title. I had, some popularity. I had a lot but compared to where I should have been or if I stayed on that path in that moment and continued to get to the more that I knew was available, I wouldn't have ended up in an average position, even though to a lot of people, maybe I wasn't an average person at that time. I was living the life, but I was setting up limits and contradicting the truth of who I knew I was and what I was going to live for. I did that for a season and then it couldn't work no more. So I had to learn how to rethink what I always thought, because what you know is what you live. And so I grew up in poverty. I grew up in scarcity. I grew up in survival. And even when I had money and all the current Met Lee at that time didn't know how to handle those things. And so anyways, I shifting out of that, learning how to think different, learning how to believe different, moved me into a year and a half later. I ended up launching Allergic to Average. And that was an actual product of everything I had studied, learned, understood, from science to scriptures to studies to statistics, everything backing and aligning with the power of your thought, the power of your belief, and the ability for you to get out of this negative or average way of dealing and really just operating with you. And so 2015 launched Allergic to Average, and all I knew was it stood for being different than what the average you wants to be. It's coming against that, right? And so started out as a clothing brand. I knew it was going to be more, but that was like the first thing. I mean, and it could have been an energy drink. It could have been a pre-workout. Allergic to Average wasn't going to be, but the decision to be in clothes, like I said earlier, I was never into fashion. So why start a clothing brand? This was 2015, actually 2014. Like why even? But what I realized was we express ourselves through the way we choose to dress, right? And so when you wear something, it's something you control. It's something that says something about you. And one thing I wanted was when people wear this logo, it's not only a buy-in to who they are or maybe a little story or what type of person they might be. But it's also a statement of who you are, right? It's also a statement of the type of person you are and not settling for whatever is more or the better in your life. And so, anyways, I've said a lot, but I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. I think it's so awesome to see that progression of your life, because I think we all get to that point where we get complacent, right? We're like, oh, we're content, but I think there's a difference between being content and being lazy too, right? Because I think we are meant for so much more. God created us for so much more than what we do, I think, you
Right.
know, and we talk about this pretty often where we put on that own self limiting doubts on our own. Was like, oh, I don't think I could do that. Well, is that true? Is that really true? Or did you just not try? Right. I think
Right.
that's where it comes to, and I've had people have to ask me that to keep me accountable, because I know for like when they actually talk me through it, I'm like, no, okay, I get it. I could do more, you know? So, and I think what a lot of entrepreneurs especially don't realize is when they get to a level they're wanting to get to, and then they stop trying to grow, what happens is if something, a wrench gets thrown at you, now you don't know how to get to the next level, so things start crumbling down, right? So but if you're
Right.
always willing to grow, mindset, everything, then those wrenches that get thrown at you, you know how to dodge them. Now, you know,
Right.
those are not that big of an issue anymore, and I think that's where I had issues in the past, because I would, any business I got into, I was like, okay, I can make this much money, that's enough. I don't need to do anything else. I could be lazy now. Nope. That's where problems come. But that's really
Absolutely.
cool to hear that.
And I appreciate your transparency in sharing, you know, what you went through, but that's built you into, you know, who you are today. And a lot of where the brand comes from, you know, and you mentioned like learning how to think and believe different. And if you want to, like, I'm gonna open up the floor to you. This is probably gonna be a little bit different than our past, you know, interviews, but like if you can, like, educate our viewers on like what you learned when you talk about learning how to think and believe different. And, you know, let's talk about how to not settle for an average life and what it takes to be truly allergic to average.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think, okay, so like one of the first things that I would probably start with is like a lot of, and this is the thing with allergic to average, and I've been so blessed to, yeah, like speaking in front of adults. I mean, elementary school kids, now middle school, high school level, churches, church camps, like, but one of the things that I started to realize, and this is, okay, so in our world today, it's easy because this right here, like this technology, phones and all that, we know that. But when I talk about the average, there is two forms of that, but one of them is more important than the other average. And so there's the average person, right? In our world today, the average person does this, thinks like this, operates like this, believes like this. But then the bigger, more important one that I always try to bring people back, you know, and so for anybody watching or listening is, you know, what does the average you look like versus the allergic to average you? Because there's a version of us that we're constantly operating with, like we're constantly having to challenge or push to make those upgrades, or it's constantly having to get stretched. And the only thing is if nobody else can do that. Nobody else can challenge your average version or your allergic to average version, but you. I mean, each one of us as individuals, right? And so one of the most powerful things that I guess to sum up everything I went through, what's brought it comes back to like your mentality creates your reality all day, every day, every single person. Like I'm in California right now and on this block alone, everybody that wakes up on the same street that I'm on, every one of our mentalities creates the actual reality that we operate, that we physically experience every day. And so that mentality is actually intertwined with belief systems because your belief systems actually start to develop certain thoughts around your beliefs, right? And so like you have to realize, I think for every person that you're competing with a version of you that always wants to be comfortable and a version of you that realizes that there's more available. And sometimes you're going to have to be uncomfortable, right? And so that's a more familiar thing now. When I first started talking about allergic to average and a lot of these things in like 2016, not a lot of people were on the same page. I mean, it was like even getting back to realizing like what a mentality is. And so in that though, like as we constantly push ourselves to not settle in the smallest moments, that's helping us to rise above the average version of us that is It is possible. It's an option, but you being the only one in the seat that can control average, allergic to average, where do you sit today? Right? At each moment, it's like, and that's the thing about being allergic to average is like, nobody was born average. Or, I mean, I'm sorry, allergic to average. We were all born average. We all come from an average way of being. We're all what we feel like average human beings, right? The only problem is like that may be true in a sense of like you're just another human being, this and that, but we're all born with this imagination, and every single kid is born with this desire to be the superhero, to be the cop, to be the military officer, to be the wrestler. Like, why do we have this imagination and this desire to be like a hero? And the truth is, and we know through story building and all this, like we are actually we are only designed to be primarily the hero of our story, of our life. And so to be that hero, I think it takes you actually refusing and denying moment by moment, day by day, the allergic to average comfort of what is around us. And it looks different for every single person. You know, my next step for more could be $2 million. Your next step for more, their next step for more could be $2,000. Neither one of them is not important, right? I mean, neither one of them is like less valuable than the other, but every single one of us is looking at the next step of what's more and what's it going to take to push myself to get to that point. And so not settling in that is the whole mission and goal. And as you do that in your own life, for just you and your family, you find yourself rising among the average in the other areas and the other spheres and mountains of the world, right? And so it's not even like, I feel like we're in this position or place now as a society where people compare before they compete. And we need to compete before we ever compare, because if you would compete first, you'd actually be surprised at who there is even to compete with. When you, I mean, you know, or I'm sorry, as you're competing, even another way to say that is like, you would be surprised on if there's even anybody to you compare yourself to. Because I think sometimes we just, like I said, we talk ourselves and we believe within ourselves something that just is not true. It's like, who told you that? Who told you you're just average and ordinary and there's nothing special or unique? Like, who told you that? Like, who got you to actually believe that? And some people can pinpoint those areas. It was my father. It was my mom. It was my grandma. It was my brother, you know? And so I've been through this journey with a lot of people, including myself first and foremost, but there's a lot of different things that begin to unlock and become unveiled in your actual pursuit to not settle in whatever more is for you. And so, I guess I mean, I'll say one more thing, which is the 3 who's you need, because this would be tremendous for anybody watching. If you've never heard of this idea, it was actually a mentor of mine. But before I get into that, I wanted to at least pause and see if you guys had anything. I say a lot, so I wanted to pause and see if there's anything that you needed clarity on.
No, I think
I'm good. I don't know if Renji did, but you can go ahead and do your 3 who's.
Okay.
I've never heard of that before, so I'm curious what it is.
Okay. So, and this is probably, man, entrepreneurship, anything, working a career, being a father, a mother, like in all areas, I really feel like one of the most valuable things that I've at least been aware of. Okay. And this is the thing, it's going to probably take a lot of your pursuit in your life, going through things to actually pinpoint what these things are. But it's like a compass. The 3 who's always navigates you back, whether times have been going great or times didn't go so well, or times are just kind of in life. It's like, go back to who are your 3 who's again? And so the 3 who's, and again, this is everything that I've been through. I've had to follow up and come back. But they constantly help to sell this ship and stay exactly the direction you need. Okay. So the first one is, who are you? Right? We're all in this. It's real simple. Who are you? But that's not a direct answer that a lot of times you can just wake up and answer. It's actually experience. It's actually you going through things, and testing the waters of who am I? Because the more you know who you are, the more you actually believe in this is who I am, then the more that you don't bend or shake to the world's temptation, or maybe, for some guys, it's money. For some guys, it's women. For some guys, it's drugs, it's alcohol. You know what I'm saying? We all have these, but when and you have a better idea of this is who I am, you're not easily swayed by the average, the average mindset and mentality or things. And the second one, while you're realizing who you are in life, at times it's also going to help you to figure out, this is the second one, which is who you're not. Okay. And this is where you could throw some grace into your whole story and maybe the mistakes you've made, because the goal isn't to be perfect in life or at anything when you're first starting and trying. The goal is to be progressive. And so who you're not also allows you to make the mistakes that is necessary when growing and expanding. It allows you to try again when you fail, right? Or maybe just simply just have the courage to do it again. And so there's been times where I've done things. I told you guys about my first business and the perspective of where I was and how lost I felt like I had gotten. All those were notes that I took back and said, okay, this is who I'm not. Okay. Somebody that can't be trusted, somebody that people wouldn't value hearing or listening to, or again, trusting. Like, dude, those are huge for me. I'm not that guy though. And I refuse to be that guy again. Right. I'm not a liar. I'm not a cheater. I'm not who are you not? That's the other thing. And you're constantly allowing yourself to make those decisions. And then the last one is, who do you need? Right. Success is not an individual sport at all. It's not an individual activity. I mean, it's a team sport. And so whether it be spiritual fathers, whether it be fathers and mothers in your life who aren't your blood relatives, whether it be mentors, whether it be some kind of a coach, whether it be somebody on social media that you're just tuned in, they don't even know who you are, but they're who you need. They say what you need. They tell you perspectives that you're not getting from around you. And so throughout my life, I would even say the last one, who do I need, has helped me more with the first two. It's helped me at times realize when I didn't even know that's who you are, Matt. I've had who do I need telling me this is who you are. And because I trusted them and I allowed them to speak into my life, which requires humbling yourself, right? The average person knows everything and will figure it out on like that. No, humble yourself. Go talk to people who are 10, 15, 20 years ahead of you, right? And so all that to say, who are you? Who are you not? Who do you need? And we're constantly finding these things out, but we always get to make a decision, even each day, even if it tweaks a little bit, it fine tunes here, this and that. We always get to start a new day by saying, okay, not that you have to do this every day, but you can, because it's always up to you. Who am I? Who am I not? Who do I need? Right. And so I would say, man, wherever you're at, like whatever you're invested in right now or taking on, whether you have a family, you're single, whether you feel like I'm too old to try, or maybe I'm too young and I don't know enough, you're in the perfect position to really investigate. And as you feel like you're going to make mistakes or where you don't know, you're always going to have those three things right there. Right. And if you don't even know where to go, then start with like, I don't know who I am and I don't know who I'm not, but maybe you should start with that last one. That should be your first. Well, then who do you need? Who do you need to be around? Right. And so, as we do that and as we get sharpened and we get, around like-minded people, this is literally how we actually stay out of an average way of being, because, we understand that now more than ever, I feel like, but who you're around actually does dictate who you're becoming, right? And so who you need is sometimes like, it's not even a coach, mentor, this and that. It's like, who do I need? Well, I actually need better friends, right? I actually need to be around people that are a little bit more positive. Just a fraction more positive. And that's who I need right now. Right. And so, it changes, it transitions, but it's always some truthful things to come back to that help us just to stay pretty much anchored in where you don't want to get lost, like the average person typically does in a lot of different seasons and transitions of life. And so, yeah.
Man, so much powerful stuff there. Like, there was multiple things that stuck out. First, going back to one of the things you said about like competing with yourself, right? I think if you look at the best entrepreneurs out there, or even the best athletes out there, they're all about how can they be better than themselves they were before, right? And that's how they get to that level they are at. If we try to compare ourselves to other people, we're always going to let ourselves down, right? Because there's
Right.
always going to be someone better, right? And then, man, there was so many good points. Another thing you talked about, which I've done this a lot, is I think we all do it. We always talk negative onto ourselves, right? We always have those negative beliefs whenever we dream things. Suddenly, those negative thoughts comes like, oh, I don't know, that's
Right.
not me or whatever. But I think this is something that I've been working on a lot this year personally. Me and my wife, we've been talking about how God has so much more meant for us. He
Mm,
didn't create us to be average. He did not create us to be average. Whenever we have dreams of visions of stuff, God placed those there for a reason. You're
right.
meant to do those. But if we ourselves, and the devil and all the evil thoughts that come and evil people or the negative people we surround ourselves with bring us down, and then we believe what they say. But one of the questions that we've been teaching ourselves to ask is that really true?
Mm,
I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm, smart enough to do this. I don't think I'm smart enough to do that. But is that really true? What is the truth? The truth is, hey, God gave me everything I need to be who He wants me to be. God put
mm,
all the right people in my life to make me and mold me to the person that He wants me to be. It's my job to look for them and use those resources instead of saying, oh, I can't do that. Right. So that's so powerful. I
yeah,
think there were
I
so
love
many
that.
things, but those are the stuff that stuck out the most.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think. Well, and then okay, to your point, real quick, because I feel like this could probably really serve somebody that
Mhm.
is maybe watching this or hearing this at some point. But another average thought that typically hits us at some point is very similar to what you're saying. Like, who am I to think that I could be that, do that, have that? Who am I? Right? I'm just another average person. All these people want that. Like, who am I? And the reality is, okay, stick with me here, because there's so much what we see in our world and in between in our own world and in our inner world. Okay, I'm talking about your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, all these things. So that's the inner world. There's so much chaos, which we're trying to make into order. The outside world, it's just another. We see so much chaos, and what's the only way? What's the only antidote to it? It's bring order. Where chaos is, let's go order, and that's even biblical, right? When God came on the scene, He saw chaos. Boom, He brings order. So that's what we're destined to do. Now, to what extent? How much order can I bring? How much order? And when I say how much order, a lot of times they're not saying it in that way, but they're saying, how successful can I really be? Well, how much order can you bring in your life? That's a better way to ask that question, because where there's chaos and it needs order, it produces something on the other side that allows us not to have an average experience in this life. So then when you're taking what the average person is experiencing in their everyday life as chaos, you bring order, you found a solution, you found a business, that's your order in chaos to somebody's chaos. Now you are finding a way to succeed, or a way, and what we see in the world's eyes, a way to be successful, or you're now more successful. But regardless, okay, regardless of what chaos is in your life right now, what chaos is around you, and what order you've found or you have not found, okay, one thing I want you to realize, and every single person hearing this, is we were designed and we were destined for greatness. Like, we were designed and destined for winning. Okay. And so I'll prove it to you. Okay. If anybody doesn't believe me, I'll prove it to you, because it goes back to this. All right. And we can use these outside things around us to actually illustrate the fact that, okay, let's talk about let's talk about an eagle. Everybody loves eagles. All right. So let's say an eagle. All right. If we look at the design of an eagle, okay, an eagle's designed to fly. Okay. Have you guys ever heard of this idea of what it looks like from your design to the desires to a destiny? Okay. Okay. I'm going to close this in then, because this is one thing that, um, silenced a lot of the negative self-doubting talk that I had. Okay. So when we look at the design of an eagle. An eagle's designed to fly. An eagle is designed to soar. An eagle is designed to hunt in the ways that it needs. It's designed to watch and see and produce in the way it needs to. Like its actual design is to fly, to soar, to crash in, to glide through the sky, to be the highest bird in the sky. And that's what it's designed to do, right? And then if you look at its desires, what's an eagle's desire? Does an eagle have this desire to be in the bottom of the ocean swimming around? It doesn't have that desire. Does an eagle have the desire to run alongside and hunt on its feet? No, it doesn't have that desire. The eagle has that desire, right? It has the design, and not only the design, it has also this desire to hunt, to be the best, to soar, right? And the last thing is, if it has that design and it has this desire that it didn't ask for, it's just in there, then its destiny is to hunt, to soar, to be successful in the sky. And so human beings, man, we're not just eagles, even though we're impressed by them. Every single human is brilliant, right? Is, oh my gosh, gifted and talented in ways that I'm not, that you're not, that he's not and she's not. And the thing is, we are all designed with different unique gifts and passions and beliefs and things that I have. I don't give a shit about that. You care about, right? That's beautiful. Cause I talk about mindset. You see me getting lit about mindset, but there's some people that, dude, you are boring me right now, right? I was designed to speak. I was designed to talk to people. I was designed to, my desire has been, I don't know why. I don't even know why. I wanted to quit a long time ago, to be honest with you. 6 years ago, I lost $35,000 in this business, and that's all I had at that time. I thought I was done. For some reason, I still have the desire to keep going, to keep pushing, to not stop. And I had no clue on how. Now that tells me that I can go back to this belief that because I have the design, because I'm carrying the desire, it is my destiny to do this. Now, the question that it's not is just as big of a question to question that it is. Is it your destiny to be successful? Well, for me to say, well, it's my destiny not to be, that goes either way. So I might as well go with, hey, you're more likely to be successful. You're destined to achieve some things. Now it's up to you to do it. So anyways, I would I would answer with that because, man, it goes back to, man, we're designed for these things. We desire this. It's your destiny to do it. It's just hard to believe that.
Dude, you've said so many things that I've never even heard of before. Like, sometimes you go to these different conferences and you hear things that like you've heard before, what is his name? Napoleon Hill, Napoleon Hill said this, 100 plus years ago, whenever the book was written. But like, dude, the things you're dropping, I've just never heard before. And it's amazing.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. And like a couple of, Renji touched on a couple of things that stood out to me as well. And when you were talking about, to go back to like who you are, who you're not, who you need, you talked about who you need and, the saying that you didn't drop because you don't like to use any like cliche sayings apparently, but like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. I thought you were going to say that there and I was waiting for it and you didn't. It would have been a perfect, plug to Allergic to Average because you're the average of the 5 people. But dude, like I love everything and design, desire, and destiny. I'm curious your thoughts. If one does feel like stuck and maybe they're hearing you and they're like, man, I don't know who I am. I know who I don't want to be, but I don't necessarily know who I need. And then if you want to tie it back into the eagle, design, desire, destiny. Can you give some insight as to maybe if someone's like, it sounds good, but like, I don't know how to find that within myself. What are
Mm.
your thoughts, and what would you say to them?
Man, I think a lot of it kind of goes back to like, it's the individual level. How are you going to find ways to really come against? I feel like a lot of times it's like, how do you actually conquer or overcome? Um, what are your biggest challenges in your life, like right here, right now, right? And we understand this idea. I mean, the Bible talks about, this parable, and it just gives us this idea, which I'll tell you, which is like, man, if you want to handle more, like if you want more in your life, like what are you doing with the little, the now, right? And like, it's one thing to know that, like, within your head, but it's another thing to actually understand what can actually happen to you or a person in general when you're not actually like cultivating and extracting and building upon like what feels like the little you have right now. That's actually the breaking point for where you want to go. It's actually conquering. Okay, so I'll say this because this just reminded me. So you might have seen this on one of my TikTok videos that I was watching, because I was talking about it in a speech. And it's this idea that you can't conquer what you're not willing to confront. You can never conquer what you're not willing to confront. And I actually think I heard that originally from Chris Valentin. Okay, give some credit. Okay, Chris Valentin talked about that idea, and the reason why I continue to talk about it is because it's so true. We want to get to like the bigger levels of believing in ourselves, and we want to get to, where our bank accounts match that, and our home, and our confidence, and our, social circle, or whatever it is for people. But like, what is it that you need to actually confront today? Is it your time management? Is it, you just said that, I mean, and it could be silly, man. It's not that like, I mean, there was for a while when I told myself I was going to stop. I hadn't done this in a while now, but I'm going to stop waiting till I get to the morning time and then go through my whole morning, and then I'm buying my coffee. No, I'm going to confront the fact that the night before, I'm going to invest 5 minutes, put my coffee maker on, put my coffee on, and have my coffee ready to go the next morning. Right? So it sounds silly, and it could be that for you. Like, what do you need? I needed to confront the fact that I had an opportunity to do something better that was going to, one, first and foremost, make my wife happy. And if you are a married man and you can make your wife happy, start there. Okay. And then the other thing, I needed to confront the fact that I told myself I could be saving money. And maybe that's $5 a day. Maybe that's $6. That's money, right? Hey, let's take it. The other thing I needed to confront was that I needed to take a little bit more ownership and responsibility for this amazing gift that I have in my kitchen, and coffee beans and sweet creamer. And I'm just being lazy and not doing it. Right. So it could be like, and then now I don't even, man, it's rare that I buy coffee from somewhere every day, even, out of the state. I have a coffee at the house every morning because I learned which was painful at a time and sounds so silly again, but I learned how to confront the fact that I was dropping the ball and lying to myself in something so small. Now, how you do anything becomes how you do everything. So when you start confronting small things in your life, you're going to start realizing where you let these other things get out of. I mean, like, dude, how you do anything is how you do everything. So like, sometimes if you are a person that is okay with cutting corners in this area, where do you start? Where are you cutting corners in other areas? And man, I'm not trying to step on toes. Cause I remember when I had to start looking at how are you, when you're doing anything, Matt, are you doing it with excellence? Or are you doing it to please somebody? Are you doing it to look good? And then this idea of how you do anything eventually becomes how you do everything. So when you become an individual, yeah, let's wrap it. I mean, not wrap it up, but I can bring it in on that right there, to be
Let's do it.
constantly growing in your belief system that you are not average and that you have something. I would say the first and probably like the most important thing that you could start with is, yes, yourself. What are those things you need to confront so that you can conquer? But at the same time, how do you, with any of those areas that you can say, hey, I need to do better here. I could do better at this. I could give myself, 30 minutes at night where I'm not on the phone. I'm not watching TV. I'm just eyes are closed. I'm thinking like whatever it is. But whatever you do, when you start to couple that, partner that, intertwine that with excellence, dude, that is going to set you apart all day, every day. Excellence is the thing that everybody wants. Everybody's, I got it. They say it in different words. Like I got the juice or, I got the Sigma. I'm this, it's like, but you're talking about, you're a man of excellence. That's what you're trying to get people to, you're trying to convey this message to the world. The young kids I work with, they say it in a prideful way, but they want to be looked at like I'm excellent. And the only way to be looked at like you're excellent is to actually produce excellence. And the beautiful thing about that is it's not as hard as you think, because all it takes is whatever you have to give, you give it. If you only have 30% that day, you give 100% of your 30%. That's excellence. But the problem is on the days where we have 100% to give, but we only feel like giving 70, that's where we lose, because there's a lot more days that we have 100% to give, but we're only giving 80. We're only giving 70. We're only giving 50. There's a lot less days where you only have 30 to give, and you're going to push yourself to give all the 30% today. That's all I got. But when you're giving excellence and the best that you got, whatever it is, as best as you can, you escape this average tendency to think I got to be perfect. We're not operating in perfectionism. We're actually operating in excellence. And so it gets you out of that excuse. Like you have to be the best. You got to be perfect. It has to be executed well. No. This is all part of that. Who you are, who you're not. You can figure that out in excellence. And so it allows you to say, okay, how do I get better? How do I do better? If I was to clean this kitchen in this house right now, how excellent am I going to do that? Not for, Renji's standard, not for Kyle's, no, not for anybody, for my own personal standard of excellence. How well am I about to bust out this kitchen and get it done? And when I do that, I'm growing this mental muscle. That's what I talk a lot. I mean, our mind is like a muscle, right? It's built, it's trained, it's neuroplasticity. All these things show us our mind is like a muscle. It's constantly being shaped. You learn a new instrument, oh, your brain's changing, it's moving. And that's the same thing with this excellence. This attitude of excellence, this ability to show up with excellence and not dismiss yourself with perfection, allows you to build this mental muscle. So anytime and every time you show up, you're not competing over here. You're competing with you, and then there's few to compare to, right? And even the ones that at this point now, when I can see clear and I can see who's actually, been competing with themselves, now I can see a little bit clearer of, okay, now I want to, and in a healthy way, I want to compete with you now. Because you're not average either. I see you, right? And that's how a lot of times I found my next friend, mentor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just wild. So I could say a lot, but that I would come back to that. It's this excellence way of whoever you are, whatever you're doing, waking up in the morning, washing dishes, walking a dog. Like, how do you inject excellence in every aspect of that? By default, you are going to rise. People are going to notice you because excellence is scarce. It's rare among the average. And when they see it, we want it. And we're willing to learn and partner and invest in excellence. And so I've lived it. I've seen it, man. And I believe it's true for every single one of us.
I totally agree. The crazy thing is, I feel like people that are watching this, when they see the way you're talking about living in excellence, I know a lot of people that could get intimidated by that, right? Because when they see someone that's really successful and they're confident, what they don't see is all the hours they put in to build that muscle to get there, right? And they get intimidated real fast, and then that's where the limiting beliefs comes in. They're like, "Oh, I can't be that." But is it really true,
right?
Though? It's not true. If you do the same thing, do the best in every action you take, it's building that layer on top of each other, and then you can get there. So that's so good. I think there's two sides that people look at And most people, they just look at it and say, oh, I can't do that. There's no way. But they
Right.
don't see all the, steps you took to get there. It might have taken you 3 years, or it might have taken you 20 years. You never know. They don't see how long it took you to get there, but it's all taking one step at a time, one action at a time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
And I
awesome.
think, I mean, that's the most important thing and that's me. I'm a speaker, man. And it's this thing that I'm trying to communicate. It's been in my mind for a while, but I can't even express a parable
Yeah.
or analogy or anything yet. But everything is so flip flopped in our actual world. Like, and I'll try to explain. I'm only going to spend a few moments on this, but if we were to actually realize that the biggest mission and goal is to crack the code on who you are. How do you learn? Again, who are you? Who you're not? Who do you need? We throw that in there, like, but how are you going to level up and not allow yourself to settle for what is actually designed and available for you? As you do that, if you became obsessed with how do I get better, with this idea that as you get better, others are getting better, right? Even if this is from like a great place. Yes. It's like, if you're in the airplane, it's that thing I love, which is the flight attendant always saying, put your mask on before you assist any children or elderly. Sounds so selfish. Why the heck would I do that? I'm going to let my grandma pass out. I'm going to let my little girl suffer. Are you kidding me? But no, the reality is if I don't help me, who I am responsible for, I can't help others, or I'm limited on how much. But one of the things that I love is when you learn in these healthy ways of what it looks like through excellence to be selfish for you, it'll make you selfless in other areas, every other area. And so it's like,
So good.
if I could just come back to me, God created you to create. So the question is like, what are you creating with what he's given you? And if you became intertwined with almost this obsession in that, bro, you'd never have a problem, I think, being noticed, being invited, or even just having a fulfilled life. But the problem is we do that in a flipped model. We now, especially today, we compare and then we think, I could never compete, like we've been talking about. You were made to compete without ever comparing. And then one day you can compare to how far have I gone? But you should always be competing and comparing to who you were yesterday. And I think if you do that, man, you'll never go wrong. I really don't think so. And so I just wanted to add that.
No, that's so good. I think I think was something we would like to ask is, what was some of the best and worst advice you ever got from a mentor or anybody?
Well, okay. I would start with probably the worst advice. Now, these are from two different people, probably worst advice and best advice, but um, it almost it was around the same thing, which is kind of cute. I didn't even connect those dots till just now, but um, one of them, which, okay, you're going to hear some truth in the bad advice. Like, that's why I believed it for so long, because it sounded good. But um, okay, so again, just track with me. But okay, the bad advice, I think, because I've experienced different, and it's just a different type of person of who I am, which in the way I've experienced and learned things. It's this idea of um, Okay, so it was okay. I hope I get the words right, but preparation is everything. When you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail, right? So preparing in general, yes, you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for this Zoom call. You got to be prepared for your next walk in. You got to be prepared to go home with your family. Like, be prepared. Absolutely. But when I was given that advice, what I had heard and almost illustrated through the conversation that we had after was, you will always lose if you're not the one that showed up the most prepared, if you're not the one that has basically yesterday or tomorrow's work figured out yesterday. If you don't know the entire program, curriculum, whatever it is, product you're selling, if you don't have it all figured out, you're always going to fail. And so that was a part of my belief system for a while. And I would, what is that? That analysis paralysis, right?
Yeah.
Trying to make sure I would just do so much, and I'd get so far, and I'd be burnt out. I'd be done. I'd be overwhelmed. I'd be like, I don't know what to do now. But then, okay, the best, and I'll bring them both together at the end, but the best advice I heard, or some of the best advice, was you don't need to, and I think it was a quote. It was probably like, but I had a mentor tell me it. And so, we'll find out if this was a quote, but you don't need to see the entire staircase to go. You just need to see the next step. That's it. And so that was probably maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I switched a lot of the way that I'd learned and the way I was pushing myself, even in the entrepreneurship space, right? In fact, I'll tell you a quick story about how that served me much more. The second one, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the next step to go. And in that, okay, this same mentor told me at one point, so it was one of my first contracts with the school. First time I'd done this, I wanted to do Allergic to Average mindset leadership classes, right? I didn't call it that with that long title. I'm better at marketing than that, but that's what they were. And so, I was going before a school principal, vice principal, all these things. I was going in front of a couple coaches because I was going to have to use their class period. And they wanted to know what the program was, the lessons, yada, yada. So in the beginning, I was paralyzed by, I got to write out all these lessons plans, program summary. Dude, list goes on and on and on. I got to get this paperwork done, this and this. And then I had this mentor remind me, he said, you don't need to see they don't need the whole staircase right now, Matt. Cause I hadn't even sold it. I was going to propose it, right? But I wanted the whole staircase to take to them. You don't need the whole staircase. You just need to show them the stair of where you're going to take them. And then if they want it, they'll let you know. If they don't, they're going to let you know. But you're not going to change what they want, right? You're going to show up prepared, but you're going to show them what it is that they want to see and let it go from there. Now, if they want it, and they say that they want what you have, they want more of those stairs, they want the staircase. Now you're going to have to go build the staircase, but don't you think you're going to be motivated to build that staircase because you're getting paid to do it now? I said, yeah, but I feel like a fraud. Okay. I just feel like, and he's like, you shouldn't. Okay. Because if you don't produce the work, if you don't actually have a staircase, you're a fraud. But just because it's not all done yet, the staircase, they don't need that yet. So my point being is I had to be prepared with a stair and where the staircase was going to go. I had to, you know what I'm saying? I had to be prepared with that meeting. But sometimes we overthink it. I should say most times we overthink it. And dude, I think that's why God allowed me to be the owner of Allergic to Average, because he's like, if this overthinker can get something, you can do it. You can get it. Cause dude, I can overthink like how to make a waffle. You know what I'm saying? I was like, I think. But the reality is, as we get into this position of whatever the next step is, whatever more is for you, don't overthink it and just take what's available. Take what is the lowest hanging fruit in your life right now. Not where you want to be in 10 years. Those things are valuable, but right now, what's the lowest hanging fruit that you can pick, inject excellence, and start to eat that? Maybe it's your routine. Maybe it is your schedule. Maybe it's your spiritual life. Maybe it's your marriage. Maybe it's your kids. Maybe it's your career. Start with one of those. Take the lowest hanging fruit and then realize that, hey, to start making moves and change, you don't need the whole staircase. You're not going to have it all figured out. Clarity comes with every next step. Clarity comes. The further you can see, the further you'll go. But you won't ever get to see further if you don't ever step out to go further, right? So I think that would probably sum up, right? My two quotes or two pieces of advice.
I love it, dude. In the one organization I'm with, we've been talking more and more about like momentum and how momentum can carry us throughout life. And that's exactly what you were just talking about with the low hanging fruit, inject some juice into it. I love it, and get going and to keep chasing excellence. And dude, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I'm a little upset we did it in the evening time because I have to go to bed here in the next couple of hours, but like I'm ready to go to work and start reaching out to people. Absolutely, dude. But
Nice.
where can our viewers, get more content from you and follow along with your journey and your business and Allergic to Average?
Yeah, man. I think the best place right now is probably Instagram. And on Instagram, and that's, I think, majority of, yes, that would be our handles on social media. So that'd be Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even Snapchat. Now, Snapchat's the only different one, and it has 54 at the end, but all of them would be, Allergic, the number 2, AVG. So our site is that.com. All of our handles is Allergic, the number 2, AVG. And then if you wanted to follow our Snapchat, we have a 8A Snap, which I keep up with more, which is always consistent, but it's the same one, with 54 at the end. Mine is Matt_Lee, and that's Lee with 1 E. Okay. I'm half Vietnamese, so I have LE54. Okay. So if you'll check me out on social media, and then even if you find me first on there, man, everything is linked. And then we do have some YouTube stuff, but man, I haven't posted in a while, and I got to get back on that. But yeah, definitely check it out, man. I would appreciate any followers and anybody that has some value in, I guess, the time that I give them. Right? They're finding some value in that. Follow me, man. Check it out, and continue to follow the movement, because we're not done.
Absolutely. So with that, make sure to go follow Matt. If you guys enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like it, drop your comments below, and of course, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Keep chasing excellence, and make sure to stay allergic to average. You guys have a good one. See ya.